Welcome back. I'm going to teach you how to check the owner of the land. That way you know that you're talking to the actual landowner. That way you're not getting scammed out of your money. In this video, I'm going to show you how to figure out who even owns this land. You're going to pierce the corporate veil and beware of the land scammers and just know that you're buying the right piece of land. And at the end, I have a bonus tip for you to show you how to protect yourself when buying land as well. All right, so you want to do your due diligence, or your research is another word for it. You might not be in the real estate business. The due diligence or the DD is just thrown around like it's candy or something. It's basically research. That's all it is. You're researching the owner, who the owner is, what the mailing address is for this owner, what the land address is. And a lot of times, don't worry if you can't find an actual address for the piece of land. They don't usually have street addresses until you've actually, went for your building permit. So you just want to make sure that this owner's receiving mail in this same location for other things. So that might sound a little difficult, but you just want to look at a couple things. One of the things is the county assessor's website. You want to see the actual, property address, if there is one. A lot of times there'll be a street name. And then you want to see the mailing address for this owner. That's where they're getting their tax bills, any correspondence about their land, and then make sure that person is attached to it. What if it's a corporation? This is what throws people for a loop sometimes, piercing that corporate veil. It might be an LLC or John Buys Land LLC. Well, that's pretty simple because it's a piece of land. But you want to make sure the mailing address of this corporation matches this person you're speaking to. And then you want to kind of go and look at the county website for that corporation. Let's just use Colorado, for example. It's called sos.gov. That's Sam, Oscar, Sam, sos.gov. And you can actually research sometimes who the registered agent is for this corporation or this LLC, what the mailing address. You just want to see that things match and add up. And a lot of times I ask the person speaking to me, what's the corporation name? What's the name of the landholder? What name is this piece of land in? And what's the mailing address? Because I want to make sure that everything they're telling me is also adding up on the county websites, the business entity websites. You just want to kind of take a little time. I mean, really, it takes maybe 10 or 12 minutes to really do quite a bit of research on who the owner is for this land. So I want to talk a little bit more about buying land from people that have it in an LLC or a corporation. So a lot of times these LLCs and corporations will have an operating agreement. Do not be afraid to ask for this operating agreement. You want to verify, any LLC should have an operating agreement. Any corporation should have an operating agreement. Don't be afraid to ask for these things because you are the one buying the land. Don't kind of pussyfoot around this or be skittish about it because they want to sell you their land. Remember I talked about the rope in another episode? We want to always pretend like we're pulling someone with a rope. You can never push somebody with a rope, but you want to pull them. You want to constantly pull them your way. They need to show you why you should buy their land. They need to be selling you. So they need to jump through these little hoops you're giving them. They need to check the box. So that way you are not getting scammed out of your hard-earned money and buying the land from the actual owner and getting everything legitimately. You never want to buy a piece of land at a massive, massive discount and then turn around and realize, holy cow, I got scammed. I got a massive discount because I didn't actually buy the land. Or even worse, you sell this land to someone else at a premium or retail price. You're 2 or 3 years down the road. You've been collecting money from this poor buyer for a piece of land that you don't actually own. So you want to make sure you're checking the boxes. And then another way is actually using a registered local title company that you can purchase this land through. They're doing all the due diligence. They're doing all the checklists. They're looking at the operating agreement. Sometimes it's better to pay the professionals. Do what you do best and contract out the rest. There's a great book written. It's called Who, Not How. Sometimes you just got to hire the who, pay them the good money to do it, and then you'll get the how done. Before I go to my next point, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also throw a comment in the comment section. If you have an actual comment or a question, I'd love to go on and check and answer these questions for you. If you have a question about like how to find a title company or how to pierce the corporate veil or anything like that, just throw it in the comments. There's a reason why I'm so passionate about, this, because in the very beginning, I got a little bit arrogant and cocky. I started making money in land really quick. and I was working a full-time job. I was an Army officer, so I didn't have a lot of time. I'd have to be on base by 6 a.m., and most of the time I wouldn't be able to leave until about 7 p.m. That's 13 hours away from my home, away from my brand new baby at the time, and my wife. They wanted to see me as well, so I got like where I was kind of getting snappy with it. I would just buy and sell land, and I started kind of skipping the due diligence, and eventually I got scammed. I got this smoking hot deal on a piece of land. It was at a massive discount. I mean, it was like 30 cents on the dollar. What do I mean by that? It was like a $100,000 piece of land that I was able to purchase for $30,000. Well, I started going through these things, and I was just about to write the check, and we found out that this was some random person trying to sell this sweet old lady's land. And thank God I was using a title company because we figured it out. But if I would have went outside the title company or did like a kneecap to kneecap closing, or we call it a self-closing where I just send a mobile notary and get the deed signed, I would have been out $30,000, and then I would have sold this land to somebody else, and they would have been scammed too. And guess who would have been on the hook? Me. I would have had to pay up all my buyer's money back, and then I would have lost the $30,000. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, guys. Know what you're buying, know who you're buying it from, and most of the time the title company can do all this for you. A lot of times I have a rule of thumb. If I'm buying a piece of land and it's under $5,000 and there's no title issues, yes, I'm running my title search and my due diligence. If there's no title issues, no $157,000 IRS tax liens or just crazy stuff going on, I'll close it outside of a title company. I call it the mobile notary or the self-closing if it's under $5,000 and there's no issues. But if it's over $5,000, I'm not willing to lose more than $5,000. If it's over $5,000 and there's any issues, I'm gonna let the people that do what they do best, that's a title company, they're the professionals, they're gonna work out all the issues, the details, the $157,000 IRS tax liens, which, oh, by the way, I'll tell you that in another video. I'd let them do their work. And then they give me a nice insurance policy, so if there's anything they missed, I can collect that funds. And again, my pro tip, here it is. At the end of the day, if it's under $5,000, $5,000, there's no issues, you ran like a simple title search, you've done due diligence, making sure that the property's free and clear, there's no crazy back taxes or huge liens. The pro tip is just use the title company, guys. Rely on the professionals. Do what you do best and contract out the rest. I hear a lot of people across the country, some of my students saying, oh, well, it's $1,000, that's too expensive. Well, hey, what's more expensive, losing your $30,000 like I almost did, or just paying the professional $1,000 to get the title insurance policy and then protecting your buyer down the road as well? So there you have it. I have another story for you. Hopefully you never get bored of my stories. I purchased one of the last remaining lots in a little town called Fountain, Colorado. It was a little mobile home park, and this was the last remaining lot, and it was a builder. He actually passed away, and his wife was stuck with this land. She was selling it to me for a stupid cheap price, $300 for the last buildable lot in this mobile home park. Well, there was a couple catches to this land that I had to find out. She didn't tell me about it. Is this land was in a corporation. We had to reopen the corporation, and we had to get her to sign all these paperwork, and then also provide an actual death certificate. But the title company was helping me out with this, thank God. Well, I had this land sold already for $16,000. I'm buying it for $300. I'm selling it for $16,000. I had a buyer lined up, ready to go. Well, we get to the title company, we do all this work, and then we find out that there's a $157,000 IRS tax lien on it. And thank God I didn't just do one of those, self-closings myself, because it was only $300, right? Well, I would have taken on a $157,000 IRS tax lien by taking on this property. And luckily the title company found out about it. Well, I was pretty crushed. I was about to make $16,000 on a $300 purchase. And, I went out and just waited. I got some other counsel. I talked to attorneys, and then I talked to another title company. And through this whole entire process, about a year later, I now have a buyer ready, willing, and able to pay me $35,000, and they're gonna give me a $5,000 down payment. And the title company was able to get this IRS tax lien completely removed, pay the back taxes, pay the city for their 10 years of lawn service. By the way, that was a pretty expensive bill. It was like a couple thousand. And we were able to buy this land for less than $5,000 with all the liens, paying the title company, and I got a $5,000 down payment from my buyer, and I'm now being paid $547 a month for the next 60 months. I'm still being paid today for this piece of land, and that was by using the title company, and that was one mistake I was able to avoid by hiring the experts. I've got a free gift for you. I just talked about a lot of things like how to do this, how to do that. If you click the link below, it's in the description. It is my land buying roadmap, and it'll show you the checklist of how to make sure you don't avoid any of these mistakes I just talked to you about.